Coming up on Eyewitness News tonight, Houstonians are in Washington tonight making a final push for the 1988 Democratic Convention.
More trouble tonight for Texas Southern University. This time Governor Clements wants to cut off funding to its law school.
And Houston school board members have voted to hold a special election to replace former board member Ray Morrison. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
And I'm Melanie Lawson. Those are just some of the stories coming up next on Eyewitness News Tonight.
When an urgent package leaves your hands, make sure the hands you leave it in can deliver. Express Mail overnight service from your post office delivers over city, over state, overnight, over whatever stands in the way. Over 97% of the time and climbing. For about half what most others charge. £2, just $10.75. Express Mail overnight service. When we say overnight, we mean overnight.
You're watching Channel 13, KTRK-TV, Houston, #1 in Texas. Eyewitness News with Melanie Lawson and Jim Rosenfield. Tim Melton has sports and Ed Brandon's 7-day forecast. Now, Channel 13, Eyewitness News tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Texas Southern University is facing yet another threat tonight. This time, Governor Bill Clements is recommending that the state cut funding to TSU's law school.
And that news comes on the heels of an announcement by TSU's president that he may be forced to lay off teachers because of dropping student enrollment. Roy Hobbs reports tonight that this latest threat comes as no surprise to a school continually fighting for its existence.
The Thurgood Marshall School of Law has an annual budget of close to $3 million. According to the school's dean, James Douglas, the cuts being proposed by the governor would mean a loss of 20% or more than $500,000 to that budget. Douglas says this is not a new issue.
You know, it's an issue that we've been fighting at least for as long as I can remember, since, you know, the law school was created back in 1947. Survival is something that we've always had to deal with.
TSU's law school is responsible for close to 80% of the minority law school graduates in the state of Texas.
While most of the students here at TSU's Thurgood Marshall School of Law are minorities, the proposed budget cuts of the state have acted as a unifying catalyst in what students here feel is a never-ending battle to save their school.
Well, to me, it's just a continuing, ongoing plan by the government of the state of Texas to close this law school through any means possible.
This law school has never had the funding that was promised at its inception. We've always been underfunded.
No, I don't think it's fair. I think that more money needs to be appropriated to the school because we don't have that many funds as it is.
We basically have to do with what we've got, and I feel like with what we had in the past, we've done very well with, and if he does any more cuts, we're not going to be able to survive.
This is not only important to TSU and the black community, but it's important to the whole state of Texas.
If the cuts are approved, some of the programs that will have to be dropped include the moot court and law review, programs aimed at keeping the school at least at status quo. And Law School Dean Douglas promises the school will fight to keep that money. Roy Hobbs, Eyewitness News on the campus of Texas Southern University.
And in other education news tonight, it took some convincing, but Houston school board members tonight have voted to hold a special election to replace former board member Ray Morrison. The remaining 8 board members had the option of appointing a successor to Morrison, who resigned late last year, thus avoiding the expense of a special election. Estimates are it could cost the district around $75,000. But in a public hearing this afternoon, citizens from Morrison's former district made it clear that money should be no object.
I urge you to place the responsibility of the choice of a trustee for District 1 in the hands of those who are to be represented during the pivotal months ahead.
Tina Reyes was the only board member to vote against a special election.
I would like to have had an election in November when everyone else is going to the polls.
The use of any funds has got to be determined on a priority basis, and clearly the feeling of the Board of Education was that this was a priority and the money will be found.
The election will be held on April the 4th, and starting tomorrow, the district will be accepting applications from potential candidates for that seat. There is one major requirement. You must live in School District 1. That's the northwest quadrant of the school district's boundaries. And coordinators of Houston's bid for the 1988 Democratic National Convention are in the nation's capital tonight.
They are poised to deliver some last-minute details to party officials before they announce their decision on Tuesday. One of the city's 11th hour efforts came to light today. Yet another $5 million insurance policy from Lloyd's of London. In recent months, Democratic site selection and National Committee members have been briefed, sent Texas beef, and partied with the state's power brokers. But Houston's latest weapon in its battle for the Democratic National Convention would give the party $5 million if the George R. Brown Convention Center isn't bug-free by January of next year. Houston already has a $5 million policy ensuring the center will be completed by July of 1988, but rumors persist party chairman Paul Kirk is leaning towards Atlanta because he's worried about possible technical problems at the new center.
We know with the 18 conventions that we already have booked into the center, there is no way that this facility is not going to be ready.
Ortel also says he does not believe Atlanta is the front. Technical hurdles to clear as well.
They have a construction problem of their own. They are talking about $1.5 million improvement to their convention center in order to make the convention work there. And they really haven't met all of the physical requirements that were set out in the request for proposal by the Democrats.
Just to make sure the party bosses get all the latest information concerning the Bayou Cities package, organizers once again have headed to the nation's capital. But whatever the Democrats' decision may be, those involved in Houston's bid say the city will be the better for it.
The fact that we're in the finals in the World Series game for this major piece of convention business has given the George R. Brown untold national exposure, and one byproduct of this for sure, win, lose, or draw, is that it's going to bring many more major conventions to Houston, Texas.
Technically, 6 cities are competing for the convention, but Houston, Atlanta, and dark horse Kansas City, Missouri are considered main contenders at this point. If Houston does get the nod, we can expect some $67 million in economic benefit to the city. We'll know Tuesday, and reporter Tom Dickerson will be in Washington for that announcement.
Officials for the Texas prison system tonight have decided to keep the doors of Texas prisons closed to new inmates tomorrow. Department of Corrections officials ordered prison doors shut last Wednesday after the system hit its legal capacity of 95%. That was the second time the TDC had closed its doors in the past month. Prison officials say a new head count isn't planned until late tomorrow afternoon.
The controversy continues tonight over just how toxic waste should be cleaned up from the Brio Superfund site. Tomorrow, barrels containing toxic materials will be disposed of in an infrared incinerator. But as Leslie Brinkley reports, that doesn't please local residents.
Upon first inspection, it looks innocent enough, but this piece of abandoned land is the Brio waste site in southeast Houston, and it was included in the Environmental Protection Agency's 1984 Superfund list as one of the worst toxic waste sites in Texas. A housing subdivision adjoins it, and for years now, residents have questioned the safety of living next door to land labeled toxic. So for the past 2 years, the former chemical processing site has been under intense scrutiny by an appointed task force. How to clean it up is another sticky question. One option includes this on-site containment greenhouse. Under controlled optimum conditions, the task force is experimenting with using microorganisms to break down the toxic compounds. Soil from the styrene tar pits and other locations are stacked nearby and clearly marked. They will be processed early this week through an infrared incinerator, in which toxic material will be broken down into a much safer form than standard incinerators allow. Despite the touted safety of such disposal, some subdivision residents are infuriated.
It's just a lot of unknowns. I don't know exactly what's in the pits, and I just don't think that they ought to set up beside this close to a residential area to do the burning and incineration.
Many of the homeowners are already in court suing the home builders and mortgage companies for not telling them the property bordered on the waste site. Meanwhile, on-site sampling and testing continues. Leslie Brinkley, Eyewitness News.
And there is still no word tonight about hostage negotiator Terry Waite amid conflicting rumors about his impending release.
And the deadline nears for the threatened execution of 3 Americans and 1 Indian national held in Lebanon. Stay with us.
early one afternoon
Where's Lou?
at the Silver Bullet.
Lou, Jackie, comedian. You ever think of having live entertainment? Because this place is dead. Of course you did. I'm hysterical. Look at these reviews. Some of these places are still open. I'll pack them in, Lou.
No. Coors Light does that.
I don't know who this guy Light is.
No, Coors Light isn't a guy. It's a beer.
A bear. Terrific animal acts. I can't get a break in this town.
Did you hear the one about the mouse?
There's no slowing down with the Silver Bullet tonight.
Trace is the swan. Everyone will be looking at her.
Your part is just as important as the swan. The whole family is coming to see you.
Can we walk?
No, we're taking Metro just like we always do.
But the other people on the bus will laugh at me.
No, they'll think you're adorable.
I wish I was 7.
Next year you will be 7. Then you can be the swan. And someone else will be the banana.
Every spring, people strive for a beautiful lawn the same old way, with products that treat every lawn the same and can give you the same old frustrating results. Because lawns are different, ChemLawn has over 800 programs. We select the one right for your lawn and change it as your lawn's needs change. That's why we can guarantee to make it beautiful. ChemLawn, making America beautiful one lawn at a time. Check your mail for ChemLawn's $100,000 Great American Lawn Game.
The deadline is fast approaching tonight for the execution of 3 Americans and an Indian national being held captive in Lebanon. Their radical Muslim kidnappers have threatened to kill the hostages unless Israel releases 400 Palestinians by tomorrow. We get the details from ABC's Jerry King in Damascus.
It's an amateur videotape of poor quality. The wording made it apparent Professor Alan Steen's statement was written by his kidnappers, who want the U.S. to force Israel to release 400 Palestinian prisoners it holds. They've set a deadline of Monday.
If they don't get released, our fate will be execution. And the Islamic Jihad, the liberation of Palestine, is serious about the time it's set.
Steen also said that Islamic Jihad believes the United States is preparing to attack Lebanon. The group called that stupidity.
We also tell America that if it commits any stupidity, we will be prone to be killed. Besides, Americans, the whole world will be victim of our administration's stupidity.
Also in Beirut, a respected local newspaper published a communique from what's called the Revolutionary Justice Organization, which claimed that kidnapped Anglican envoy Terry Waite was carrying a sort of homing device that would signal the location of the hostages to unnamed intelligence sources. Here in Damascus, Nabi Berry was working on a 3-way trade that would start with the release of Terry Waite and some of the Americans held hostage in Lebanon, and then involve the exchange of a captured Israeli Air Force pilot for those 400 Palestinians in Israeli jails. Berry says Israel has not dismissed the offer.
They don't say no and they don't say yes. It was in between.
Jerry King, ABC News, Damascus.
An American Medical Association official is warning tonight that AIDS could, quote, completely destroy the medical care system as we know it. Dr. Richard Corlin said, however, there is hope to curb the problem because people are beginning to recognize how harmful AIDS can be to our society. Meantime, a minister in upstate New York took a dramatic step today to educate people about that disease. During his Sunday service, Reverend Carl Titchener passed out 125 boxes of condoms. Although his congregation applauded his efforts, a group outside his church protested the move. They say the way to stop AIDS is not through condoms, but through chastity.
And still ahead on Eyewitness News, some first in tennis and skating, and a Cinderella story in the NBA All-Star Game.
Bruce Keatson will have the highlights and more next.
Chamber finally hit.
There's just one place for me.
No
one builds cars like Ford. Escort, the world's best-selling car 4 years running. Mustang, voted one of the 10 best cars for '87 by Car and Driver. Tempo, the front-wheel drive family car with room for 5. And nobody sells them like your Ford dealer. Save with 3.9% financing and up to $600 cash back. Escort, Mustang, Tempo.
We don't need the best review. Texas Ford and you.
No other taste attracts so much attention. Diet Pepsi.
You gotta be the most refreshingest invention.
See that smile, see that look. Diet Pepsi is all it took.
No other taste attracts so much attention.
Also try new Diet Pepsi Free. Great new look, great new taste without caffeine.
Sunday night at 10:45, a fugitive from the slums of Chicago and a rich Texan battle for the love of one woman.
Stay on here. It'd be easier than it is now. There's not that much work after the harvest.
Who'd know but you and me?
I know what you're doing. We're talking about my wife.
That boy's like a son to me. I can remember the first time I ever saw him. Why you let him touch you like that?
For the first time on Channel 13, Richard Gere and Sam Shepard in The Days of Heaven. Sunday night at 10:45 here on 13.
Well, Tim Melton is off this weekend, and Bruce Geetson is filling in for him. And, of course, the big news is the All-Star game today.
Wasn't that a great game?
That was unbelievable. I'm watching in the third quarter, and they're already well above 100. That's when you knew you had a good game.
Set all kinds of records.
You're supposed to be working, Melanie.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, I was working.
So was I. Benefit of being in sports. Although he didn't play, let's give Ralph Sampson an assist in the West victory in today's All-Star game. Now, Ralph's replacement in the lineup, Tom Chambers, turned out to be the hometown hero in the game's MVP and the highest-scoring All-Star Classic ever. It began with a standing ovation for Julius Erving, playing in his final All-Star game. Shortly afterwards, Chambers embarrassed himself by missing a wide-open slam dunk. But he wasn't the only guy who seemed nervous. Larry Bird made a great steal on defense, then promptly threw the ball away at the other end of the court. But the focus of this game is individual superlatives, like Isaiah Thomas's behind-the-back pass to Bill Laimbeer for an easy 2, or the game-high 9 assists from Magic Johnson, or a career game from Moses Malone, who scored 27 and pulled down 18 rebounds. Michael Jordan showed off a little bit. Hakeem Olajuwon tried to, but he missed the alley-oop here. He later redeemed himself before fouling out, helping the West overcome a 12-point deficit with only 6 minutes to go. But it was Chambers who had the hottest hand in that comeback. This jumper pulling the West to within 1. He would finish with 34. The game was tied at 138 with only seconds to go, and Olajuwon blocked a shot. Kevin McHale got the ball and missed, and Malone tipped it in. 140-138 with 3 seconds to go. The West inbounded, and Blackman took it to the hole for the foul. He would have 2 shots to tie with no time left, and with Isaiah Thomas teasing him from midcourt, yelling, "Choke, choke." Rolando made them both. In the overtime, James Worthy and Jabbar took went on to win, 154-149, the highest scoring All-Star game ever. And now we can all turn our attention to the issue at hand. That's chasing Dallas in the division race. The Rockets are 6 games behind the Mavericks, which sounds like a lot until you remember the lousy start Houston had.
I think, the law of averages, I think, have gone against us the first half of the season. I think we're going to get a few breaks the second half.
Hopefully we come back with the right frame of mind, killer instinct, and go after it this half.
Stay away from a lot of the major injuries. I think that we'll have a good opportunity to make a run for the title so far as the first place or trying to win a division.
In college hoops, TCU continued its roll to the Southwest Conference title this afternoon in College Station. They got some unexpected help from big man Tony Papa, who's not known as a great gunner, but he hit for 16 points, most of those from outside. That tied him for game-high honors with Carvin Holcomb, who had his usually steady game at both ends. Winston Crichton had only 4 points for the Aggies, yet they were in the game until the final 2 minutes when they missed 3 straight great opportunities to score. Frogs win at 55-50 to go to 19-4 on the year. The Ags have lost 5 straight. Well, second-ranked Indiana hasn't lost 5 games all year, and one of the reasons is Steve Alford. Today, the Hoosiers, Mr. Basketball, hit for 30 points, including 13 in a 6-minute stretch of the first half, as Indiana beat Michigan by 16. At Chapel Hill, third-ranked North Carolina had to go into overtime against Virginia before J.R. Reed's three-point play gave the Tar Heels the lead for good. John Johnson's jumper late in the game pulled the Cavaliers to within 1 point. but then a last-second shot by Morgan was no good and the Heels escaped. Now, the best performance of the day belonged to Kansas's Danny Manning, who scored a career-high 40 points. The Jayhawks won their 46th in a row at home, 70-60 over Notre Dame. Now, the PGA season's only 5 weeks old. Already, Corey Pavin has won $307,000. Yep, sign the kids up for lessons, I'm telling you. Pavin's got every reason to smile, but this was on the 18th hole. He was in the clubhouse with the lead, and Craig Stadler needed a birdie to beat him. Now, Stadler had a good run at it, but he missed it. They went to sudden death, where they were chasing a different kind of birdie. A pigeon thought he had the best seat in the house on the second extra hole. For a birdie in the wind, he got it. A nice little nest egg of his own, you might say. There's the scoreboard. Corey Pavin wins it. Paul Azinger bogeyed 17. He would have been in the playoff. Fred Couples fourth. On the LPGA, Nancy Lopez, you better get the plaque ready in Sugar Land. She qualified for the LPGA's Hall of Fame today with a 3-shot win that gets her in the minimum criteria for the Hall of Fame. She's only got to complete her 10 years on the tour, which she'll do in July. She won by 3 there. U.S. Pro Indoors Tennis Championships had Tim Mayotte matched in the finals against John McEnroe, a guy he had never beaten until today. And Mayotte in the near court lost the first set, then he bounced back with some great play at the net, like this save that McEnroe has no chance to get. And at this point, McEnroe was fed up with Mayotte's luck or skill, depending which side of the net you were on. Mayotte finished him off with a great serve, winning that match in 4 sets. And big upset today at the first annual Warren Finn Racquetball Tournament. Dave Peck of Austin in the red defeated the game's biggest name, Marty Hogan, to win the $4,000 first prize. That event matched the country's top 8 professionals. Peck came from behind, winning the final 2 games 11-10 and 11-9. First last night at the National Figure Skating Championships, or almost a first we should say, 2-time defending champion Brian Boitano won again. They tried to add a little excitement to his routine and do a trick that had never been done before, a quadruple jump, 4 turns. Now watch him though, at the end his hand touches the ice. Officials disallowed the move. He says he'll try again at the Worlds in Cincinnati next month. Also last night in Dallas, a big track meet, Dallas Morning News Indoor Championships. Billy Olson of Abilene won the pole vault, and in the long jump, Carol Lewis upset Jackie Joyner-Kersey, leaping 22 feet and a quarter inch right there. And Carol's brother, Carl Lewis, running third from the left, won the 60-yard dash in a time of 6.12 seconds.
I think if anybody that's been able to watch me the last 3 races, they've just seen, big differences. And I've run better each week. I've competed better each week, and, I'm more pleased with each race.
And that's the sports. Bob will be back tomorrow, and hopefully Tim will be back next week.
Okay, well, it was good having you around this weekend, and Mama Lewis must be very happy tonight. Well, Ed's coming up next with the 7-day forecast.
And a little later on, we'll show you some stylish stallions strutting their stuff. Stay with us.
This father and son are alike in almost every way. The only real difference between them is age. Because the son is younger, statistics show he's a better life and health insurance risk, so he can buy insurance at lower cost. Basing premiums on risk makes it possible to give you the fairest life and health insurance rates possible. It's a principle that works for us all. The lower your risk, the lower your premium.
The healing touch of a doctor's hand. At Humana Hospital Baytown, we understand that these troubled times make it very difficult to be an adolescent, and that a troubled adolescent disrupts the whole family. That's why we work to help both the adolescent and the family. We even provide a regular, fully accredited school right on the premises. For help that works, call Humana Hospital Baytown night or day, bringing the human being in need into the hands of a doctor. That is Humana.
You asked 7-Eleven to keep slicing prices. We listen. We're keeping the blade sharp and the prices low. 6 packs of all Coca-Cola products. Just $1.59 now at 7-Eleven. Yeah, we're working harder to make things easier for you. Check this out. All brands of 2-liter soft drinks. Just $1.39 every day. You know who led the way in cutting you deals like this. 7-Eleven. We're still slicing prices.
At Mossy Oldsmobile, buy the exciting new Cutlass Sierra for just $154.73 a month.
At Mossy Oldsmobile, you expect the exceptional, and you get it.
What a glorious day today. The sun was shining, the temperature was perfect, no humidity. I might as well do your forecast.
Yeah, the guy on Friday forecast that, by the way. He said it would be a good weekend. Let's talk about the weather. The 7-day forecast presented by Texas Commerce Banks. We'll start with a look at Texas tonight. It's still a beautiful evening in the Lone Star State. North and northeasterly winds over almost all of Texas. The front is not too far south of Houston, but that doesn't matter. High pressure is filled in, and it's simply a beautiful evening. 30s in the Panhandle, 40s in most of North Texas, 50s and 60s in the southern part of the state. Maximum readings around Texas today in the 50s in the Panhandle and far west Texas, 60s and 70s in the rest of the state, except for Austin, where it reached 81. And here in Houston, we had a temperature of 80 degrees also. High temperatures around the United States. A marked difference between the Great Lakes and the Southwest. Teens, 20s, and 30s up in this portion of the United States. 60s, 70s, and 80s in our area. And the 70s and 80s were common in California, Nevada, up into portions of Oregon. As a matter of fact, California, Oregon, and Wyoming. All three states had record highs set today. This evening, most of this area is under clear, cool skies. Our temperatures will drop fairly rapidly tonight. Back there are some clouds in the western portion of the United States, but no rainfall is being reported. About the only precipitation in the country, and it is significant precipitation. Fairly heavy snow falling in the northeast as a winter storm moves up the coast of the Atlantic. Here's the way it looks in Houston today. 39 was our early morning low, 80 our afternoon high. No rainfall today. At 10 o'clock at Intercontinental Airport, 59. Here at KTRK-64 at Hobby, 65. Barometer rising, winds northerly at 7. The relative humidity 49%. Tomorrow should be a good day also, about 18 degrees cooler than today, but still a good day. We'll have sunny skies. High pressure will cause us to continue to have north to northeasterly winds. On Tuesday, a few clouds begin to move back in as high pressure settles over the northern Gulf of Mexico. We'll have a return of east and southeasterly winds, but still it'll be a nice day. On Wednesday, no significant changes. There'll be a trough of low pressure about halfway across the country with a low pressure area right along the Red River. Southeasterly winds in our part of the state, southwesterly winds back in West Texas, partly sunny skies over almost the entire state. On Thursday, that trough of low pressure will move through our area. There's just the slightest chance of shower activity Wednesday night and early Thursday morning as the trough moves through. Late Thursday should be at least partly sunny. On Friday, we'll see again partly sunny skies, a fairly rapid return of east and southeasterly winds behind that trough. Then, unfortunately, it looks like the greatest chance of rain during the next 7 days is on Saturday when an honest-to-goodness cool front moves through. If enough moisture builds up in advance of that front, then the front could barrel through and bring a bit of shower activity. But if that happens, it would only cause a nice day on Sunday as the front moves across the Gulf and brings us sunny skies. Sunrise tomorrow morning in Houston will be at 7:06, set at 6:06. 1 week from today, the sun will rise at 7:01 and set at 6:10. Look at the next 3 days. I think you're going to like them. Sunny skies tomorrow, 37 for a low tonight, 65 for a high tomorrow, 41 to 64 under partly sunny skies on Tuesday, 42 to 67 on Wednesday, and we don't expect rain for the next 3 days. That's the 7-day forecast. Melanie and Jim will return.
Monday on the 3 o'clock $1 million movie. Disaster week begins with a high-rise catastrophe.
Maybe we should have put it off for another month.
Can't cancel now. You know what the public relations impact would be? Fire started 81st floor.
And they're celebrating 300 people. Why didn't you get them out of there? There's no way for a fire on 81 to reach up here, not in this building.
Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, and William Holden in part 1 of The Towering Inferno. Monday's 3 o'clock $1 million movie here on 13.
And finally tonight, there were horses of a different color and a different breed in Houston today. The Royal Lipizzaner stallions, who gracefully sidestepped their way across the summit. Leslie Brinkley introduces us to these royal mounts.
This is the face of a beautiful, people-oriented horse. In fact, it takes only a very subtle cue from a rider to command these Royal Lipizaners. You can feel the hoofbeats of the horses quicken the heartbeats of the spectators. 16 of these royal beauties perform the ultimate historical equestrian art. The dancing steps of this breed were once used in battle to terrorize foot soldiers, like this air above the ground maneuver.
Their movement is more up than along the ground like your thoroughbred. They're a lot more muscular, a lot more athletic. They are able to do a little bit more athletically than other horses.
These famous white stallions from Vienna have practiced their prance for 12 to 15 years. At about 6 years of age, they turn their silvery white color from the black-gray shade that colts are born with. In another dozen years, who knows, this 9-month-old may return to Houston, center stage. Leslie Brinkley, Eyewitness News.
Beautiful creatures.
They certainly are. Thanks for being with us this weekend.
We'll see you again next week, Saturday, 6 o'clock. Have a good week.
Hi, I'm Robin Leach, and 93Q wants to make you rich and famous. Can you spend $93,000 in 24 hours? For details, tune your radio to 93Q now. Wednesday on the 3 o'clock $1 million movie. It's disaster on the high seas when an ocean liner is ripped by a thundering explosion.
This thing blows, so liable to take the boilers on each side with it. An explosion like that could tear out half this ship.
If she's built up that kind of pressure, shutting off the valve ain't gonna help.
You're gonna have to crawl across on this board.
I've never lost a ship, and I'm not losing this one.
Robert Stack is on The Last Voyage. Wednesday's 3 o'clock $1 million movie here on 13.
Thursday's exciting $1 million movie here on 13.